I did hear from Joshua. He did mention that he has some family circumstance that just came up unexpectedly. So he may be able to chime in later,
Okay.
but no guarantees. Okay,
Rob's
well,
with us.
I'm gonna let you know, I keep losing audio intermittently. So, and I close the meeting and then come back in and I've got audio, but seems like I am got some kind of weird issue. I've never had it in a Zoom meeting before, but seems like about every 5 minutes I get bumped out of audio.
Huh.
Yeah.
So if you're giving your report, we just fill in the blanks, right?
Back out again. You want to try using your phone, Brian? Calling in instead?
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way to check audio for everybody?
Not really, other than just kind of the display it gives me here. There isn't a way to.
No way to try to tag in, huh?
Not really.
I'll try.
Oh, if Zoom's acting up tonight, this is Rob. I noticed logging in was a little bit different. Where I actually had to open Zoom, where normally it opens up automatically, John. So maybe it's just maybe I need to update it or something. But my camera's not working.
Oh, a lot of times Zoom will tell you when you need to update, though. I know I kept getting these notices and I kept ignoring them, and finally it went, nope, you can't join the meeting until you update.
sorry to hear a few people have had some issues this evening. I think we just have to kind of work with.
Oh, it's all good, Andrew. It just was noting it just could be the feed here or something. You don't have to look at me. I'm here to listen most of the time too. So.
Okay, well, we're about 6 minutes past 6, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Okay.
At 6:06. Roll call. I think we've established who's here and who's not. Don't see Joshua or Steffi. So we'll need a motion to adopt the agenda, or can we just say it's by acclamation? Does that sound good? Okay.
We should probably do a motion. I move to adopt the agenda for the evening.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Linda. Would someone like to make a motion that we move into a committee of the whole so we can disregard the two board member comments and things like that? And there's no voting during this
I
period
move
as
that
well.
we move into a committee of the whole for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thanks. Now we'll hand it over to the 2021 draft budget presentations by department. So Joe, however you'd like to proceed, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody had some time to review their packages. The process tonight will be pretty straightforward, not much different than what we did last year. When I'm done talking, I'm going to turn it over to Joel, and we're going to leaf through the first few pages of the budget packages, the first few tabs. And then when we get into the actual departments, we will then turn it over. It will come back to me, and I'll turn it over to Goff, and then turf care, maintenance, facilities, and marina. That is the agenda for tonight, and that's the process that we will go through. At that time, each of those managers will present to the board their 2021 budgets and explanations. So at this time, I'm going to let Joel take over and go through the first few pages of this. He and I will both be here for questions, and we'll be able to answer them, and we'll go from there. Joel?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just start out on page 1. And page 1 just goes over just the 2021 budget parameters. I'm just doing exactly what I did in the finance committee. I'll just give you a really fast run through of the budget. So this shows the budget parameters. There's really not too many changes in this. The collection rate has been bumped up to 95%. 3% increase in salaries and wages for possible merit increases and or mandatory cost of living increase for minimum wage employees. 15% increase to insurance, 15% increase to health benefits, 3% increase to special assessment increases. So that's the increase that's mandated. That's what has to be done. The operation dues have been, well, actually, I'll talk about that when I get into the next page. If you just turn to page 4 in your packet, you're looking at so basically you're looking at the breakdown of what the dues will be. So obviously in the left column is what the dues are right now for 2020. And then in this box column to the right, what it'll be in 2021. The only change you'll see is that operation special assessment went from 2020, $11.11 to $11.44. That's mandated as part of the special assessment. And so because of that, the budget has been worked, so it's pulled down the operations part of it from 59.30 to 58.97 to make up for that, to keep these dues flat for 2021. So there's no increase to the
I think your audio has gone out.
Lost you,
Joel.
Joel.
Joel, we can't hear you.
Joel, we've lost your audio.
Yeah, my audio cutting in and out. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Here. Joel, pop in here. Everybody can hear me?
yep.
Joel, come in here.
Yeah, we can hear you, Joe.
I understand.
Was that on page 5 when I cut off? Okay. So page 5, so this sheet, you saw a sheet like this last year. This is just showing you year by year of what the proposed dues increase or decrease would be. And this is just based off of obviously the capital spending from 10-year capital plans. It's working its way into this. In the year 2029, in the footnotes, you'll see that barn aid, clubhouse, areas, even maintenance building replacement, marina parking lot construction, those things have been moved to 2029 just because of this point, since we don't know precisely what's going to be done with them and in what year that it'll be dealt with. So that's why those have been parked here essentially in 2029.
Can I just jump in real quick here? Sorry. There's an alternate to this at the very end, and this is something that the finance committee has been talking about, which would be removing those replacements of those buildings, and we put back in the repair costs for the components of it. So that's in the very last section of it. So just,
Yeah, that's on page 75. So basically what's going on page 75 is the barn aid, the clubhouse, that sort of stuff. The barn aid and the Area Z building. So basically in 2029, those items have been removed, but then component units have been put back in for the barn aid. And actually the Area Z building, those component units were already in there anyways on the reserve site. So it's an alternate kind of presentation. That's what you're looking at between the two. If you turn back to page 6, you're basically, this is kind of like, in a sense, you could think about this as page 4, but only in greater detail. So this is showing you, like, for example, the dues are now made on total lots of 3,138 lots. Those were the lots, the most up-to-date current lots when I put this together just the other month. And then down below is just more detailed of developed lots, undeveloped lots, and how much it would be on an annual basis, and what it is down below that for surf and roads and mailboxes. And how that's coming to that, and these amounts will tie out. If you turn the next page to page 7, this showed up last year in your packet, maybe the year before that, possibly, but these are just pie charts. So this is page 7, page 8. This is 2020, how the budget is right now as we speak for 2020, based on 92% collection out of 2,645 developed lots, 501 vacant lots. But this is just showing you a breakdown of your income sources coming in for income. Page 8 is showing you your basically what your dues are paying for. So how much your dues are going for, like pools, property taxes, dues, insurance, that's really common costs, operations, accounting, so on and so forth. Well, and this is for operations, pie chart, only for the operation side of it. The next page, pages 9 and pages 10, is the exact same thing, but now it's based off of the proposed 2021 budget. So you'll see it's now based on 95% collections, 2,668 developed lots and 470 vacant lots. And page 10 is, you know, what your operations dues are paying for. So how much of your dues are going for these individual components of operations. So page 11, this is pretty much the last page before you get into departmental budgets. Page 11 is just showing you 2020 budget versus the 2021 proposed budget. I'll go with golf. This will be an easy way for you to understand how to read this. So for golf enterprise, if you look at the 2021 budget, how it says negative 66,775, what that means is this is golf revenue minus golf expenses. So it's a projected loss for golf of 2020 is 66,775. Like with maintenance, you know, so basically each one of these is just surplus expenses over the revenues coming in, net loss in a sense, you could think about it. And then you'll see where it says rec next to different things. This is showing you the combination of rec items that add up. Then when you get into the second set down below, operation, regular dues income, now you're seeing your straight revenues coming in. So your operations dues, special assessment, operations net marina income. And then you'll see the rec, that 367,618, basically that rec is then being offset by the items up above that, recreation, community center, parks, and pools. And then this gives you, for 2021, you'll see the grand total budget flat, 0. Now in 2020, the line below that, recreation subtotals, net loss 13,334, in 2021, projected net loss of $79. And with that, I'll turn this back over to Joe. Oh,
Hi again. That was kind of quick, but that's the detail for what the budget is based on, where the money is spent. In pie charts, we started putting that in last year since everybody likes the graphics of a budget. So at this time, I am going to turn it over to Brian for golf, and that page number. Golf starts on page 24.
Okay, so I will. I'll touch on revenue first, and then get into expenses. We have had very strong revenue last couple of years, showing good growth for about 4 years in a row. So we went ahead and budgeted a 5% increase over 2019 revenues. Part of the challenge with revenue is that I end up projecting revenue at the very beginning of our season, so it's hard for me to be accurate with that, and that's why the 2020 budget is 877 which is actually less than we made in 2019. But by the time we were making the budget, we didn't really, we couldn't predict that we were going to continue on the pace that we were. So, very pleased to hit the number that we hit last year. And I feel good about projecting continued growth of about 5% for 2021. Obviously, involved there, COVID being, being one of them. We didn't expect COVID issues to be lingering this long into 2020. So we certainly didn't, when projecting 2021 numbers, weren't factoring in COVID-related losses. But assuming things are back to normal health-wise next year, I'm comfortable with the increased budget of to $952,450. On the expense side, things are staying pretty similar. There's a 3% increase in salaries. FTEs remain the same. So not a lot of changes on the expense side either. And with that, if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Me.
Hey, Linda.
Okay, I got 4 really good ones for you, Brian.
Okay.
So what would it take, and I understand that Jacob's part of this whole thing anyway. We talk about the Gulf enterprise, and I guess what I'd like to know is, even though you've got this huge increase and everything else, and congratulations on last year, what would it take for you to submit a balanced budget for the Gulf enterprise?
I think this budget gets us close. What are we at here? So we're at a $25,000 loss budgeted.
Yep.
Well, it would take an increase in revenue or a decrease in expenses.
Yeah, I know. It's just, we've talked about this. We've talked about this for a long time about, how can we make this so it either Gulf either makes a profit or it at least breaks even. Not that we're always expecting the members to support it. The whole thing is, let's say that Sudden Valley Gulf, let's pretend this is an independent enterprise, as we talk about, would Gulf still exist in Sudden Valley with the years prior to this and always relying on that additional money that it gets from the dues from the membership? Would we have Gulf in Sudden Valley?
Well, I think, there's a couple ways to look at that. If you look at it historically, Gulf has, except for the last 10 years or so, the 10 years prior did consistently show a profit. And then the other way to look at it is that as an amenity, is that are all amenities held to the same standard? Do all amenities have to break even or show a profit?
Okay, I just, as much as Gulf is supported by, out here as far as money, put towards it, that sort of thing, it's like, I think that the membership, even with their the capital money that you spend. I have one more question for you, and you'll remember this. The reserve study calls for you replacing your fleet of cars next year. Are you anticipating doing that? Or is that refurbishment going to carry them for another year into 2022?
No, the refurbishment has achieved its goal of getting them 2 extra years beyond the first 5 years of the lease. But we're starting to see issues with them now. So I'm definitely going. My plan is to seek another 5-year capital lease at the end.
When you and the thing that I can remember when we did this before, and it's just, I was back on, it was on finance at that time. And you offered us two options. And the options were you could do a capital lease or you could do an operational lease. And the
Yeah.
reason you couldn't do an operational lease was because you'd already made up your budget and you hadn't included anything for that sort of an offset. And I know that's one of the reasons why we stood for it. It's just, if it was an operational lease, as I remember it, Club Car, especially if we stick with Club Car, really had some nice advantages to going with an operational lease versus a capital lease.
That would be contrary to my recollection. I didn't think there was any financial differences in terms of what terms we were able to get. It was just a decision that was made internally that the feeling was that carts were a capital item, so it should be handled as a capital lease. I don't think there was anything. I don't think there was any preferred pricing from the vendor.
No, I think though that if I'm not mistaken, they offered that they would do the maintenance on the cars where now we, if it's a
Yeah.
capital lease or, and maybe, well, they're under lease, then they do that. I'll go back and look at the information because I know I've still got that. And my
Linda?
last,
Linda, I think one of the other reasons they didn't go with the operations lease is because we cannot keep those carts undercover, and that they wouldn't do an operations lease. Brian, do you remember any of this?
I'll take a
No,
look at some of it.
I think it was pretty much just an internal decision that we made, that we decided that, the carts were
Okay.
a capital item, so they should be treated like capital. But there was no, I would say, Linda, unless I'm really misremembering, I don't recall any offer by Club Car to do any maintenance on them. Any work they did on them would be, unless it was warranty work, which we get regardless. We get a warranty on the carts regardless of what type of lease we enter into. So there's no offer, as far as I knew, as far as I can remember. I'm quite certain that there was no offer for them to do the maintenance.
I'm going to chime in here, and Brian can chime in as well. Linda, generally when you're doing carts, either purchase or a lease, there is a standard service warranty that you have for X amount of years, and then you can always purchase the extended work maintenance on those carts. It does not come free. And Brian, you can quote me. Don't quote me. I'm guessing that it's about $75 to $100 a year per car, something like that is what it comes out.
Oh boy, Joe, I don't know off the top of my head, but
yeah,
I would.
I know it was when I looked at doing carts.
I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if it was that little.
Yeah. It's been years since I looked at a lease for carts or a purchase, but it's a number, Linda, that is really, really up there to get that extended warranty and have them do service work.
Okay, I'll take a look at that, at the two options we had way back when, because it was like, the reason we couldn't do an operational lease is because the budget had already been set for golf and there wasn't any money there to do it, because it was one of the years when golf was working in the red anyway to finish the year. So that's why we went with the capital lease. But it was an option that Brian brought to us that I don't remember any other golf pro bringing to us. So
Hey, Linda, I'm terribly sorry. I got bounced out of my audio, so I missed the beginning of that last statement that you just.
I was just saying, I thought it was really nice that you made the offer and brought forward two options to us to do operational or capital. And you're the first golf pro that I've ever known of, and I've been around here a while, that has made that offer to us. And I really appreciate it. Here's my last bizarre question, and I've been beating Joel up about this. When you talk about your outings, all of that gets lumped, as far as Sudden Valley is concerned, into just daily play. Do you keep track of it separate in your books?
I do.
This is how many rounds of outings, because I'd really like to see us keep a separate line item for just the rounds that are played with outings and then just regular daily golf scores.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly keep that data, the rounds and the revenue on outing play. I think it would just it would require some adjustments, certainly with our POS system here, and then on the accounting side with Joel, and that would be a decision. I mean,
I know, I'm just asking because it's something that I know you always are really, you can strongly discuss that, but it's really confusing when we look at it with ours because all we're doing is looking at daily play. And it's like, well, is that because we're having more outings or is it because we're having that much more play? And you just don't know where, if there was a separate line item, it would always be real clear where the increase was. That's all.
Hey, Linda,
Yeah.
would it help if at the end, like the last board meeting of the month, if I just had Brian give me rounds of golf and
Yeah, I mean-
that came from outings? Would that help you? Instead of doing a line item, do it every month because this time of year we have a lot of outings, and as we get into the slower part of the year, there's the only really outings we have is the Winter Series. But I mean,
and those aren't outings.
yeah, I mean, we could do it that way.
You know, I guess it's my concern is a lot of times when we see your report, Joe, when Brian puts his numbers in, it's not like an end of month. It's like we get those numbers and you say, as of this date, this is my numbers. And yet the numbers I look at that are printed out for us are always with a month end. And maybe there's something that could be done. That's all. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I could change the way I do my board reports, and that'd be, that I give to Joe. I could certainly, it's kind of odd because they typically are third or fourth week into the month. But if you want me to, the charts that I show are for the beginning of the month. But then the data, and I guess I thought that was a more up-to-date way to give it. But if the board would prefer consistency and that the numbers I submit are current, are in line with the charts, I can certainly report that way. I just feel like since you're 3 weeks into the month, it's a more appropriate update if I'm telling you about what's actually happening at that point. But
it's just, for me, it's something that it's just, you have to look back and forth. And it's just, it'd be nice to have it one way or the other. And, if it's month end, it's just for me to look at and be able to say, this matches with that.
The other way, Linda, to do it is I could maybe get some help from somebody more adept than me at Excel and add a chart. I could add an outing chart.
Oh, excellent.
So you could see revenue charted on you can see in that monthly report that I submit to Joe, we could have a chart that shows outing revenue.
Oh, that would work too. That would be good. And rounds, because whatever.
Yeah, outing rounds and outing revenue. I have all that data, so.
That works. That works for me just perfectly. And those are all my questions I have for you.
Mr. President, this is Rob. With my camera off, I'm not able to raise my hand. And I don't have the feature on the menu to be able to do so. Could I ask just a couple questions?
Yep. Feel free. It's open for discussion. Everyone can really chime in. Go ahead, Rob.
Hi, Brian. Good to see you tonight. I just had a couple questions. My understanding is that the Eagle Crest Golf Course is closed. Is that correct?
Eaglemont Golf Course in Mount Vernon has closed. It is for sale. They're actively seeking buyers. But at this point, there's no imminent purchase. So expectation, it would be surprising if it was able to get open for 2020. So right now it's closed, but it is definitely for sale and they are seeking buyers.
So as part of your revenue projection based on seeing some of those players coming to Sudden Valley to play?
Yes. Yeah, that played into my confidence in budgeting another increase. And in fact, we have seen both public play and an additional, we've probably had 20 to 25 new members join that were members at Eaglemont. So it's while obviously it's not great for them, it's been wonderful for us. It's been definitely helped our business. And then back in 2018, the Kayak Point Golf Course closed as well. So two competitors, and not that we necessarily draw a ton of the same players. We do more with Eaglemont than we would with Kayak, but the effect it has, Rob, is that, when those players, move northward, and even though the players that got displaced from Kayak Point maybe ended up at the time at Eaglemont or at Avalon, then that play gets kind of squished and pushed our way as well. So it definitely, definitely has a positive effect.
That's great. Thanks, Brian. Also, with the revenue increases, are there increases in, and you may have said this, I may not have heard it. I'm sorry if you did, but are green fees going up for single, single round play, for seasonal play for members?
Are you asking about the rates or the?
Yes. Are the rates going up?
Rob, we typically don't decide that until the fall, until we see what this season brings. But if you based on what we've been doing for the last several years, my expectation would be yes. We've had increases between 3 and 15% in rates year over year for the past several years. So my expectation would be that rates would probably a smaller, if I was to guess right now, I would say more closer in that 3% range. We have had some significant rate increases in that last couple of years. So this year was 5%, I think. So we might be due for more like a 3% increase.
Sure. And what are the courses within our general area? What have they done? Are they tracking with us?
Yes, they've been similar. Yeah, we all certainly watch each other. We do meet periodically to discuss strategies. We're competitors for sure, but we also meet to discuss strategies, and we share information about play, and so it's we tend to move in similar directions.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I was just curious about those things. Thank you very much.
You bet, Rob.
Got a question. I got a few questions. So I guess for me, starting kind of with the top, I feel like we have a pretty aggressive revenue increase projection in the midst of this. Well, we're not really out of it, so I'm not going to call it a post-pandemic economy that we're in right now. And it seems to me most of what I'm reading is things aren't really projected to get better at this point. I guess I have issues with having such an aggressive increase in revenue projections while at the same time projecting a loss again for the golf course. And I tend to agree with what Linda was saying. The flat out, the community just wants the golf course to break even. And that includes capital expenses, not just operations budget. And so I'm not sure why we're being presented with a budget that isn't at least balanced on the operations side. It really, I don't know, it doesn't sit very well with me from what I've been hearing from people in our community. And I think we should consider reducing our revenue projections in light of everything that's going on, which in turn is obviously going to increase the budgeted deficit that you're projecting already. And therefore, we would need to also reduce costs and expenses. And so I guess I have a few questions on a few things. I'm wondering, in the salaries department, how many FTEs do we have in the golf management?
5.91. And that's the same as it was and has been the last couple of years.
If you turn to page 60, you'll see a breakdown of FTEs by department.
Yeah, it doesn't, that has golf enterprise, not golf management.
Oh, I see your question.
And I'm curious, what are those positions then? There's basically 6 full-time, or do we have?
In golf management, we
Yeah.
have two full-time, and then we have 2 additional year-round employees that go to reduced hours in November through February. And the rest would be seasonal.
And so what exactly are the job duties that golf management is responsible for?
So management of the golf course, management of the members and all the member activities, the promotion, marketing and management of golf memberships, golf outings, of daily play. When you get to the seasonal employees, then that's marshaling the golf course, starting on the first tee and managing play, cleaning golf carts, washing range balls, picking range balls, washing clubs.
Okay. So basically, so there's 5.91 FTEs, and so there's 2 full-time employees. So I'm assuming that includes you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you are not actually the golf pro. We have another person under you that's considered the golf pro.
Yeah, I'm the golf director, so I manage the golf enterprise and the golf shop and the golf management department. And then we have a head pro, Kevin Leduc, who's considered the head golf professional.
Okay. And then on top of that, we have additional, how many then do we have we have two employees then on reduced hours, and how many seasonal employees or 2 employees that fluctuate FTE status?
Yeah, and then I guess the best, there's a number of actual employees that go to make up the remainder of the FTEs. So the remainder of the FTEs would be, see, a total of 2.2 FTEs, and that's spread over probably 9 seasonal employees who work between 10 to 30 hours a week in the summer months.
Okay. And so when I'm looking at this for the salaries, 2016, our actual expenses on salaries was 160,000. In 2021, we're projecting 243,000, which is a 51% increase in salaries from 16 to 21. And I guess I'm curious as to, like, that's a 10% increase in salaries yearly. I guess I'm wondering how in 2016, we were able to run the golf course with pretty similar budget numbers. We were a slight loss in 2016, 20-ish K or 16K, it looks like. Wondering why now in 2021 it costs us $243,000 to do the same exact job. The golf course hasn't changed.
Well, one thing that's changed dramatically is the minimum wage has had a massive increase since 2016, and we have a lot of employees that are at or near minimum wage. So we had forced increases, which then created wage compression. So we ended up having to, even the employees that weren't at minimum wage ended up having to get bumps as well. So there was a big difference there. And then we also made a shift in 2018 and brought in, and in order to create a position we brought in a head professional that could manage more of the day-to-day, which freed me up to do more on the marketing side. We didn't have anybody really doing marketing, that was kind of falling by the wayside. And what we've seen as a result is a dramatic increase in on the revenue side. And we did again last year see a break-even year. And that's certainly what we strive for every year. Jake and I manage our budgets very intensely, and we are always trying to spend as little as we can to make as much revenue as we can.
And I appreciate that you try your best to, come with or end of the year with a balanced budget. But just to Linda's point, I mean, we haven't done it. We've failed to do so every year except for 2019, which was the driest year in the last decade, which obviously helps golf revenues dramatically. And so, I still contend, and the last question or the last statement I'm going to make is that I think we're being a bit overzealous with our revenue projections, and not coming in with a balanced budget is not going to sit well with the community.
I just want to add with the points we're talking about the balanced budget. We do need to keep in mind that the option isn't golf or no golf. We own that land, and we have covenants that require that we operate it in a certain way. So right now we've chosen golf, but it needs to be operated for recreational uses. And so the real comparison to me that is better is not a balanced budget or nothing, but what does golf cost us in dues versus another option? So a park, how much would a park operating as a park cost us? And you can look at it operations and capital combined, but the option of just not maintaining that land is not an option that we have. So we can't really look at it that way of, okay, well, if you're not balancing your budget, then, we can't do that, because no matter what we do with that land, we're going to have some costs with it. And we need to make sure that we are thinking of it that way.
Are you proposing we get rid of the golf course for a park right now?
I am absolutely not proposing
So then
that. I'm
why
saying
would
that
we
is something.
compare that situation to this budget on this golf course right now? I don't
Because
think
no
that's
matter-
apples to apples. Like, if we want to go down the road of seeing what the community wants to do with the golf course, I'm more than happy to go down that road. But I don't think that's what we're discussing here. We're discussing this budget and what it entails and how the golf course has affected our community over the years. And
Right.
we
Well, we
just
are
don't ever
discussing-
talk about I am not advocating for a balance. What I would actually like to see is this budget show $100,000 surplus that can be used towards the capital needs of the golf course, so that it's actually taking care of itself instead of us having to support it.
Right. What we're talking about is how much of the members' dues are going towards golf. And I think what's appropriate to think about is how much of the members' dues are going to have to go towards that land, regardless of what is operating there. That's the only point I'm trying to make, is that yes, some member dues are going to maintain that space, and some member dues will go to maintain that space regardless of what we use it for.
Yeah, but if it's a park, we can all use it.
We can all use it right now.
No, we can't.
No, we can't.
It's
Don't
open.
lie and
Do
say we
that.
can. We all have to pay exorbitant amounts of money to use the golf course that we all can't afford because we've watched our dues double over the last 2 years.
Anyone can use it to walk when it's
One
open.
night,
And we had a
3 out, 6 hours out of a week.
So you're proposing that we continue to support golf in a negative budget because we can walk the front 9 on Thursday and Saturday? I mean, that's ridiculous. That's off topic anyway.
what I am saying is that regardless of what that space is used for, dues money will go to support it. It will be
Right.
great if golf breaks even, but regardless of what that space is used for, some dues money is going to be used to support it. That's in our covenants. We have to maintain that land as recreational space.
We
I
don't have
understand
to
that.
use dues money to support it. We can make the notion as a board to say we want a budget that doesn't use dues money to support it. It's not that difficult
I
to
also
give
feel-
Brian and Joe the directive that requires them to do that.
First of all,
We sit and
this is
dance
off
around
topic.
this over and over every year I've ever lived here before Joe took over. Every year, Linda, how long have you been here? How long do we dance around this subject over and over again? And the community just is tired of it. Like,
And also, I feel like that was a huge
4% of the community are
misrepresentation.
members to that golf course, with, I'd say, a generous 10% of our community utilizing it between annual and daily membership or greens fees. Like,
But this
it
is a
just, it
discussion
shouldn't,
about the budget. We are not
this is a
getting rid
discussion
of
about
it.
the
Also-
This is
budget,
a budget
Leslie.
discussion.
Here
She
you are
opened the
shutting things down
discussion.
again, per the usual.
No, actually, Karen opened the discussion by bringing it forward. So
Yep.
I feel like it was a huge misrepresentation that we would have to pay anyway. I mean, we haven't even analyzed that. I don't think that's fair to put that out to the community, especially when we're smart enough to know that we won't have huge irrigation sprinkler system costs coming up. We won't have, over and over
We'll just
capital
have huge
requests.
golf cart costs.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, I don't think you can compare a park to a golf course and then tell the community, you're going to have to pay anyway. That's a huge misrepresentation. And also, I would like to
Actually-
apologize. Excuse me. I would like to apologize to the board. I was late because I had patient care. Thank you.
No worries, Steffi. Welcome. Just so you know, we've entered into a committee of the whole, so we don't have to raise our hand or, just have an engaging dialogue. So just FYI.
Any further questions on golf?
Well, I have a question.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm late to the picture, but what are we doing? I mean, I guess, okay, wait, I do have one question. Two questions, actually. What are we doing in order to have a surplus instead of a negative balance? And are we taking that into consideration when we're giving raises? Will we be cutting overtime as we're going into an economic crunch?
We don't have any overtime budgeted. So
Okay,
we
good.
have the same FTEs budgeted for next year that we had this year.
And you'll refresh my memory on that?
On the FTEs, the golf management side is 5.91.
And then turf care?
Turf care, Jacob's going to speak to turf care in a couple minutes here, but
6.9. It's
Oh, okay.
6.9.
6.9. So is that total FTE for golf and turf?
would be golf. Joel just came up with the FTE for turf. Was it? What did you say, Joel? 6 point. What was it? What
Right,
was
I
it?
got that. But
6.9.
And then golf management's 5.9. So what's that? 11, 12, 12, 8, 12.8.
81.
right, I was just
Yeah.
verifying that
12.81.
the golf management was the only. So thank you for that. Got it.
Yep.
And then, so overtime isn't budgeted. I see that we're giving raises. Has that been discussed?
I mean, there's 3% budgeted in there for raises.
Mhm. And so I guess I like for people to get their raises. I like to get my raises, but when golf is in a negative operating budget and, going into COVID, things like that, I have concerns. So I'm just going to voice those.
Yeah, and we were able to operate better than projected last year, and we were able to operate a small surplus, essentially flat, but a small surplus. And we're certainly, I think this year we're trending quite well too. Even with reduced revenue, we were able to reduce costs quite dramatically as well. A lot of that was thanks to being closed for 6 weeks, obviously. But we're certainly actively managing Jacob and I manage our budgets very closely and very intently, and with the goal of bringing in as much revenue while spending the least amount of money possible and shooting for a break-even budget.
Everyone, this is Rob. I need to step out of the meeting for a bit. At a previous commitment, and I hope to return before the presentations end. I'll talk to you. I'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Those were my two.
All right, we'll go into turf with Jacob.
All right, good evening all. My name is Jacob Close. I'll be talking the turf care budget, answering any questions we have. I believe in the packet that we are operating off of, that we are on page 46 for those following along.
Can you repeat what your FTE count was?
I believe Joel reported 6.9.
Yeah, that's right,
And
6.9.
yeah, so that covers all. Right. So that covers the staffing for our full-time and seasonal throughout the operating year in just turf care. Obviously, there's budget change in some GLs as you go through for 2020 to 2021. And, some of the biggest changes are adjustments in fuel based on that market, some costs going down in some areas like equipment R&M, and so trying to hold it on a pretty tight schedule just to support what we need to, or just what we need to support revenue goals in golf, and try and keep up from a business standpoint with other golf courses in the area, and compete well and take care of the assets so we don't have we have as low a cost as we can in the long term. And let's see here, I'm trying to think of any other high points. As Brian talked about, we have had some changes over the last few years with mandated minimum wage costs. We operate all our seasonal staff at minimum wage, and some of our full-time are not much above minimum wage. So there's some costs in the last few years associated with adjustments there. That's about it. There's not a lot of changes to this year's budget, as you can see. So any questions from the board?
Jake, I got two for you real quick. So for a while when we were in the midst of COVID, I thought I understood that only one maintenance person could be out on the course at one time. Is that correct?
No, so we followed a very strict exemption for maintenance tasks, and there was actually a golf course, and there were specific industries where they talked about what you could do and how many people could be. We did do a system where we only had a couple people working at a time, but a lot of it was staggered. So a lot of times there was only one person working at a time on the golf course to minimize interactions. But we ran that 7 days a week, and 12-hour. There might be somebody there at 5, and he might leave, and then someone might work till 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night to try and minimize our interactions between employees. That was early on in April. And then as phases changed, things loosened a bit, but we actually still to this day operate on a bit of a staggered start and stop, so that we don't have people interacting in our, we just limit the amount of people interacting in the
Okay,
building.
gotcha. The only question I have in your budget is
Yes.
What's with uniforms? That's got a big jump.
Yes, it does. So we, we had been under, I can tell you honestly what's happened in the last few years with the economy going as well as it was. We had a lot of turnover. I believe last year we had to hire our seasonal positions. We had to hire almost every single one of them 3 times because people came, got trained, got uniforms, and some of that safety related. So like boots are a requirement that we supply. So as that turnover increased in the last 2 years and then culminated last year with literally hiring 3 times for those seasonal spots, our uniform costs, which does include some PPE, includes gloves and some gear like that we don't reuse, that has gone up. That's a little bit of a that could, with the economy changing a little bit here, that could prove to be different. But I thought it was best that we at least adjust to what costs had been in the closer to what
I'm
costs had
looking
been
at 18 and
last 2 years.
19 and seeing that indeed, you were looking at least 7,000. So thanks for the answer to that.
Yep.
Can someone, maybe Lisa knows this, what year were the minimum wage increases that we've had? I know we did last year, right?
And it's been 4 years in a row.
20.
Yeah, it was 4 years in a row. They jumped $1.50 the first year, 50 cents the second year, 50 cents the third year, and $1.50 the fourth year. The last one was last year. So it was in, $4 in 4 years. It's pretty significant.
What is minimum wage again now? Is it $13.50?
$13.50, yeah.
Okay, and it increased, you said $4 over that time?
It was $12. It was $12 last year. And
I think it went from $9.63 to $13.50.
It was $9.46.
$9.46, yeah.
Yeah, and then it went to $10.50, and then it went to $11.50, and then $12, and then now $13.50.
Okay, so over the 4 years, it was about a 40% increase in minimum wage.
Yeah.
Over that time. Okay, thanks.
Who's next?
Well, yeah. So this is Jacob talking. If there's no other questions at this time, I guess I'll give it back to Joe and go from there. Chime in if there are any coming back to you.
Okay. All right. The next one will be my list here. Will be maintenance, and that will be with Bruce.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. If you go to page 32.
Page 30 it starts on.
Is it 30, Joe?
Page 30, yes.
Okay. I would like to go to the last page. I'll start on that, the bottom line. Total maintenance net income loss. Just wanted to show that we actually went down for 7.3 less than last year. Not many changes occurred. And if you go to page 31, you look at line B 6795. That's 100% decrease. That was an FTE that we had last year, and it was the first time we had it in there to identify it. We used this line item. Now it's been incorporated this year's budget. And then the next page is going to be page 30. Again, it'll be line, lost it. Anyway, it'll be line B 5395. And again, this was, this was materials associated with that FT or that we put in for last year. And again, it's been incorporated in the budget. Joel, I'm going to pass one more to you. That's that I do have an increase. Can you handle that one, Joel? Explain what went on there.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, so those last two lines were actually just reversed. The first one that he talked about was the budget supplies, maintenance 1 FTE on page 31. And then this very last one that he talked about was the budgeted maintenance 1 FTE on page 30, second row from the bottom. And that was last year they budgeted for an increase of a position into the maintenance department. And that's where this was parked in a sense. Now, the only increase that you'll see on this, basically what Bruce is getting at is where is that? If you turn to page 31 well, if you just look at the far right column and you see the percentage changes, you'll see at 77.92% for other supplies. So that's where I bumped him up just a little bit from 2,500 a year before to 4,448 for more supplies for that extra FTE position that's rolling into this year. And actually that one FTE position is really only essentially half of the position. That other half is spent in roads, CVC work. So, and that's what's contributing also to.
Can you repeat that, Joel? Sorry.
Oh, that
said.
that FTE position that was in the 2020 budget, the full one FTE in 2021, that's not its own separate line item. That's now absorbed into the payroll cost. But in the maintenance budget in 2021, it's not really a full FTE because half of that FTE is spent on road CVC work. So it's really only about half an FTE that's really in maintenance. Meaning the increase from the year from 20, basically in 2020, the increase called for one FTE, and in a sense, it's really kind of washing out to about half, since half of that time is spent working on CVC, which is capital.
Anybody have any questions?
That's why, like, I pointed that out because if you look at salaries and you see like, oh, like an increase of 12% for just, salaries and 10% for payroll taxes, that is because that a few lines down below that where you see it's a decrease of 100%, that amount is now working itself this year into 2021 in the 5,300 salaries GL line item.
I've got a question for you, Joel. So we're talking about the salaries now for the maintenance people.
Yeah.
This 232, and even for this year, none of that includes their hours for CVC, correct?
No, this is all operations.
That intended that they would spend that. Okay, that's what I needed to be sure of. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what does this $232,000 cover?
So
what
this
job duties are we doing? So we're not doing the culvert maintenance, obviously.
Yeah, because that'll get billed to just the CVC budget. But so that covers 4.97 FTEs. Bruce can do a better job explaining what each position does.
Can you please break down what the 4.97 FTEs are in relation to actual employees?
I'm kind of catching a little bit of that, but if you're trying to figure out what we're doing, is that what you're asking?
Well, I'm curious as to how the 4.97 FTEs comes about to be actual employees. And then, yeah, what job duties is the maintenance department covering with the $232,000 in salaries?
Sure. Okay.
But to answer the first part of that question, so that 4.97 is a culmination of approximately 11 people on payroll for maintenance. We're working, obviously they're not all full-time. Some work half-time and so on and so forth to come
So
up.
how many full-time maintenance employees do we have?
Hey, Joel, let Bruce answer those questions.
Okay, sure.
Okay. So how many full-time employees do we have? That's kind of going to be a fun one. Over the year, we have 2.5. Okay.
How do we have 2.5?
2.5. Yeah. So 6 months out of the year, you have 4 employees working under operations. 6 months out of the year, you have 2 working in CVC, 2 working in operations.
I guess I'm not concerned about CVC. I'm concerned about this budget line item and how that translates to employees and job duties.
Okay. Let's see, I'll try another different approach then. Maintenance actually takes care of the roads, the culverts, the ditches within Sudden Valley. That's one of our job duties. We also take care of all the buildings with the exception of the rec center. We also take care of the sanding during the winter time with support from turf care.
But
Those are
that's
the
not out
basic.
of this budget line item, correct?
No, it
What,
is.
the,
AJ, that does count to maintenance. That is under this budget. Snow
The
removal is.
230,
Yes.
so why do we pay UDR every year for our
We
full
haven't
cost
been-
of that?
AJ, we haven't been using UDR. UDR is a function that the board has decided to use for stuff like this. Last year, all operational for snow removal went under operations. This UDR was something that the board had used for years to offset that. UDR is basically a savings account that you guys have. That has nothing to strictly do with operation. That is a board fund that you guys can use to offset unforeseen expenditures.
Okay. So snow removal is included in the 232,000. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, for labor, yes. Mhm.
Okay. So how many full-time maintenance people do we have year round out in that 4.9 FTEs?
you want myself included in that?
Yes. Well, I'm assuming you're included in that FTE count, right?
Correct. Again, half of my year is spent under CVC, half of it's spent under operations.
Okay.
Okay, I have 2 FTEs that are full-time 12 months of the year. I have 2 that are split between CVC and operations, 6 months out of the year.
So two are full-time operations all year round,
Correct,
and then 2 are the same as you, half and half.
correct. And then we have a half one during the summer. That's the one we added last year.
Okay. I guess one concern I have is everybody talks about maintenance, and there's a lot of discussion that goes around on the lack thereof. And I'm curious as to, I mean, we're shaving costs out of our maintenance budget when we're constantly being told we have all this maintenance that needs to be done and buildings that are running down and this and that. And the board approved last year an additional FTE, but it doesn't seem like that actually went to maintenance. And we ended up just shoving half of it in CVC, which is, I'd contend, not what the board approved, but I'd have to go back and look at that to be certain of that. I don't know. I look around and I see my roadsides don't get mowed. The streets don't get swept. There's like every day I drive past a sign that's held up by sandbags. And we're decreasing our maintenance budget here while we're projecting an income loss on our golf course. And the priorities seem pretty skewed to me when it seems like the thing that would help our property values the most would be our maintenance department.
Sure. Okay, let me try that. Did I hear you say that maintenance had an increase this year?
No, we've decreased the budget.
Correct.
And while I appreciate the fact that we have a department here that's looking at decreasing their overall budget loss, amidst all this COVID stuff and amidst the resolution that I brought forward this last month, but it seems to me like the one thing that our community has a complete consensus on is maintenance, particularly roads, culverts, and ditches and snow removal.
Great, good. Yep. Hey, that's good. Kind of help you out on that. Have you driven around Sudden Valley in the last month? Some of the roads and such, and saw the mowing that we've actually done? Have you seen the signs that we're starting to fix? Or the mailboxes that we've washed and cleaned up that weren't done last year? That's coming in with this extra 1.5 people we're working with this summer. First time we've had them.
And I think that's great. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that you just had to, and this is nothing against you, Bruce. This is more of how I feel about the way the association has been doing things, is like the fact that you just had to say that. Like, this is the first time we're actually able to go get and do these things, is just further proof to me that the priorities are, the word I really want to say is not appropriate to say right now, so I'm not going to say it, but
Okay.
And here we are.
Yeah, I'd like to just point out one other thing for you. Joe, did you jump in there?
Yeah, I jumped in. Tell AJ when they took your extra, how many people did you have when you first came back, and when did they get taken away?
Okay, well, let me, sure, I'll start when I first came here. I had 8 FTEs under me. When I left in 2012, there was 3. When I came back, we had 3. Now we're up to 5.
Mhm.
So previously in years past, we were able to pay 8 FTEs within our much, much smaller budget. But now we can't seem to find the room to have, our golf management has more FTEs than our entire maintenance department. That's ridiculous. The maintenance department for any of our local jurisdictions is the biggest by far department, division, whatever of any of them. Again, Bruce, it's not an indictment of you or anything. I'm just saying, like, this is why people sit and complain, is because this is how the budget is prioritized and people are tired of it. But I appreciate the breakdown on the FTE stuff. And I don't have anything further to say.
Hi, guys. I apologize. I'm late to the party.
Hey, Josh.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
It's okay, Josh. I was late too. I had patience.
We'll hand out tardy slips later. Josh, just so you know, we're in a meeting of the whole, so feel free to just chime in on the discussion whenever you please. We don't need to raise hands or be called on or anything like that. Just FYI.
Okay,
welcome
thank you.
to the meeting.
Thanks.
I keep forgetting and raising my hand. Yeah, I have to agree with what AJ's saying. I would rather see more money in maintenance than golf. I mean, I realize that we have CCNRs that say that we have to have a recreation area, but we don't have CCNRs that say that we have to spend all our money on golf and not maintaining the community as a whole. So I'm hoping to see more improvement than subsidizing in these next 3 nights. Thanks for those points, AJ. Are we moving to the next person?
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting to see if anybody has any more questions for Bruce.
I don't have so much of a question, but just a statement to say, from 2016 to 2021 projected budget, golf management saw 51% increase in salaries, while our maintenance department only saw a 45% increase in salaries.
Okay, facilities is on page
21.
21, and that is a combination between Bruce and Jacob. So which one of you wants to start and go from there?
I'll give Bruce a break and he can chime in whenever. This is Jacob Close. And we've got the facilities budget on page 22. I believe that's the starting page.
21.
And facilities years ago was created. It tracks all the costs of our buildings or our facilities, from rental income that you see up there at the top. Obviously I don't have control over that. But then we use this to maintain buildings, Bruce and the maintenance guys, replace systems as needed. And we have the janitor that's covered in this. And there's some costs that go between the barn, the rec barns. They're allocated to the rec department and through facilities to try and keep that cost visible to everyone. And not a whole lot of changes here. There was a change in the you'll see a big salaries change, and that was not due to a raises given or more people hired, but some work that was being done in rec, I believe, and Maddie can speak to that later, got switched into facilities because it was taking care of a facility. And so that is some salaries and payroll costs and whatnot in those early GLs. And then, staying pretty flat in the building materials, in the vendor, there's contracts that we have for our facilities. I deal with one on pest management, and Bruce has other ones I know for HVAC and what have you. But other than that one's pretty straightforward. There was a question at the finance committee level for GL 5125, what the IT support and services was. And I did check in with that. That's the cost of our maintenance connection software that we had used to track and plan maintenance tasks over the last, I think, 3 years. And Bruce and I actually all of Sudden Valley had used that, and it's a pretty complicated system. And I know Bruce is working on considering whether that's the way forward, but that is budgeted for next year, and that's that line item. So if there are any questions, I'll open up to that or up to those.
Jacob, it's Linda. Would you explain a little bit more? I'm sitting here looking at the 2019 actuals of the salaries, then 2020. We're still kind of right there, but man, in 21, we're doing a big jump. And I just, it looks like we're taking on like a quarter of an FTE over in FTEs in that. And that just seems like a really big jump. Yeah,
it definitely is, especially if you look at the budget change. And that was a movement of some janitorial staffing, some correcting of that. I believe, and Joel might have a quicker answer than I do, but we had we changed that to be more accurate for this budget season. Am I on track there, Joel? Or do you have any other input?
So, well, from 2020, so the FTEs 1.12, and then in 2021, it goes up to 1.41. Now you were just talking about the FTEs.
Well, yeah, and it's just a quarter of a person, really, 0.29, so it's not like there's a lot there, but there's a really big jump in the dollar amount under salaries.
Let's see here.
Right, and there isn't many people there, but there was some hours, I believe, that had been allocated or that needed to be corrected. And the facilities budget was low, and so that's low in accurately charting that cost. So it was going elsewhere. So that's why the change was made, including the FTE. I mean, the hours were brought over, and that corresponds to the salary cost, and then also the payroll taxes and the benefits, of course.
So is that work done in the rec center then? Because Jacob said that it had something to do with extra work that was done. I know there was a lot of painting done in the rec center. And I just wonder where, are we capturing that or are we moving that all around now? That's all.
No, this is Bruce. I think I can address that, Linda.
Okay.
The lot of painting that was done at the first part of 2019. We had a person that was a part-timer during the CVC work. He also was a professional painter. So under the rec center or Parks and Rec's budget, Maddie brought that person in and actually did the painting under her own budget. It didn't come out of maintenance.
Gotcha.
Can I speak to that just real quick? We mentioned it before. The reason some of that painting got done is because we had an employee that was out that could have been out on an L&I claim, and instead we gave him light labor. And so we were able to avoid a claim and also get some painting done at the same time. So it actually benefited on both ends.
Okay.
I got a few questions. So the lease income for the restaurant, does that lease income that we're getting, does that cover the utility costs and capital costs related to that area and facility?
The lease payment is separate, okay, and they pay half the utilities.
Do they pay any capital costs for replacing equipment?
No, we own the equipment. So if they just pick up and leave, we own the equipment. And that was, and Leslie can chime in more on that. That was something they had done years ago. So that if the restaurateur decides to skip out on us, we are, and they take all the equipment, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. It's easier to get somebody in here to be a restaurateur with equipment as opposed to going out and buying and trying to get everything that way. Is, I believe, was the reasoning on that. And Leslie can answer that because that was, I don't know when when Sun Valley owned the restaurant, they did at one point in time, and they've been doing concessions now for quite a few years.
Okay, same 2 questions for the library income. Does that cover utilities and capital costs?
There's really no capital cost down there. Utilities, I'd have to check.
Well, it's a whole building, is it not?
Yeah, but we don't spend a lot of money down there capital wise. There's nothing. The only thing that would be coming up on the reserve study would be a paint of our adult center. It's still used again by the association as well as the library.
Okay. And then the 1.4 FTEs, what are those job titles that make up those? And
The one is the custodian. I'm not sure on the 0.4 though. Joe, do you happen to know, Joel, do you happen to know off the top of your head that 0.4? I'm thinking part of that would be maybe Bill's doing some maintenance on the vehicle.
For facilities, so there's 1.41 FTEs, 0.91 is the janitor, and 0.5 is Jacob.
so, wait. So Jacob's billing half an FTE salary to facilities and half an FTE salary to turf care?
That's right.
Yeah, the one person, remember, he's a mechanic. Maintenance doesn't have a mechanic, so that one person takes care of all the golf and all of the maintenance equipment, the trucks, the backhoe, heavy equipment.
But the equipment won't be in facilities.
Well, we actually do have a janitorial driver has a vehicle, and I'm responsible, and my mechanic for the whole maintenance fleet. So costs get allocated kind of to where time is spent. Bill, our mechanic, has hours divided up into different departments based on his workload in maintenance, and same thing for me, some of my workload in facilities and you know, operations was.
I gotta clarify quick because I don't think I understand totally. When you said Jacob, you meant Jacob's staff, not Jacob himself? Or were you saying Jacob himself's salary? Or you're saying Bill, who works under Jacob, Bill sometime to turf care and sometime to facilities?
No, Jacob Close is halftime in facilities, a halftime turf in the budget.
Okay.
And then part of the other, you know, and I work on a lot of the capital expenditures that sometimes are related to facilities. So anyway, years ago, there was a allocation of that. So, but Bill is also allocated in for maintenance of equipment and vehicles in maintenance line item.
Okay.
But that's included in the FTE count in the budgets.
AJ, years ago, you used to have two mechanics. You had one for maintenance and facilities and one for turf care. And some time ago, they decided to cut, again, positions and made it one mechanic.
Okay.
Hey, Bill's been with us. Jacob, how long? I think he was here when I moved here in 1996.
Yeah, he's 95 or 96, I believe.
And if we ever lose him, we're in so much trouble.
Yeah, and I know Bill, like, for example, was here when they did some of the work on the Marigold Dam early on for that that state licensed dam. He built some of that stuff by hand.
Wow.
And we actually incorporate some of his knowledge into other areas, but same with, you know, maintenance has, you know, guys that have had well, Bruce himself, but yeah, Bill has been here since 96 for sure.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah. But, you know, that happens across a lot of these budgets where you get people like a janitor gets his hours allocated to different departments based on where he works.
I think too, doesn't Bill every now and then take a look at some of the golf cars if they need work?
Oh yeah, Bill exclusively maintains, unless he's gone and I have to work on it or something. Bill is the majority maintainer of the golf carts. In fact, a lot of the golf cart companies don't even have maintenance techs anymore, unfortunately. So we kind of have to have that ability.
I just want to give him all the credit he deserves because he wears a lot of different hats and he does it very, very well for many, many, many years.
Yeah, I've got to watch him, Linda, firsthand in the winter, keep stuff together with bubble gum and MacGyver tape.
Well, and that's where some of this gets hard, you know, too. Bruce and I think Bruce talked about snow plowing. I mean, when we had a whole month this year, and that's reflected in our, you know, our budget so far this year. Some of our savings was literally from, you know, turf care staff and Bill working right beside maintenance, you know, plowing. So, and those costs do get allocated to the correct departments. But it'd be a lot harder without that interaction between departments to mobilize for weather events and snow removal. But long story short, there is facilities has breakdown to several different people that put effort into it.
So then the job duties that are covered under the 74,000 are a custodian and half of Jacob's time. So obviously the custodian's responsible for cleaning. What are they responsible for cleaning? What buildings? This is all building related stuff then, correct?
Yeah, facility.
90
Yeah, Bruce can talk to that.
Yeah, 90% of it is, yes. Our custodian also, when he's caught up, will do things like blowing down the parking lots. He's also pressure washed. He's also done a little bit of gardening. I like to say he does everything from sweeping the floor to repairing electronics. He's got electronic background and a degree.
And so what are your job duties then in relation to this, Jacob, as a half FTE?
Yeah, so there, in the past when this was made and currently it's working on capital projects related to facilities and reserve study actions as far as looking at those every year and dealing with the updates to the reserve study. Bunch of infrastructure things that I dealt with. Kind of when Bruce was gone for a little while, I started doing those, and so that continues. Basically all related to facilities, you know.
I have a question if you guys don't mind. One of the things that was a selling point, I guess, for Ken's Cozy Kitchen was janitorial of the barn. So how does that fit in with this custodial position and the amount of work that's done in the barn area?
Joe, do you want to touch on that, or I can?
Either or.
Okay. Josh, started out when they first started the Parks and Recs, the custodian took care of that area. Then they brought in a person part-time. Actually, we were able to train him enough so he could take over full-time in the rec center. The custodian backs him up on vacation and has right now backing him up while this COVID-19's on. Does that address it? He does not do the rec center full-time now.
Okay.
And Ken's Cozy Kitchen is the other part-time help to do the custodial there.
Thank you.
Question, if that's the case, then either they should be in, we always take them out of UDR every year. Why aren't they in somebody's budget? Because I understood from his presentation that it was an employee of Maddie's and they helped out with the gym, that sort of thing. And it's like, we're taking, it's a chunk of change out of UDR that we're never going to get back. And it's like, if that's going to happen every year, then why not put them in a regular operational budget?
I think the long
subcontractor.
I think, Linda, the long term for that was not to have that for a long-term solution. It was a short-term solution, and that was something again years ago. But I think going forward with that, there will be changes there where it doesn't come out of UDR, that it may not even be there.
Okay, I just was curious because we're talking about budgets for next year.
Mm-hmm.
What the custodian that's a part of the facilities salaries, what buildings are they responsible? What building is that person responsible for cleaning then?
Short answer would be all buildings except the rec center. So you start off with, of course, the adult center that is not part of the library. And you go up to both floors on the admin or clubhouse, turf care, security, the bathrooms at the marina and the AMPM, and also maintenance department.
And how often would you say he is finishing his custodial job duties and being assigned other job duties as assigned?
Probably others are 10% of his duties. For example, right now it'd be a good thing to point out. Of course, COVID-19 things slowed way down. So he actually, as part of his duties, took care of the clubhouse, touched on the, I want to say turf care, and then the rest of it was actually fixing up around the clubhouse, around the adult center area.
And then I'm kind of curious, the two building R&M line items, there's materials and contract vendors. And then there's also, I'm just kind of, there's a bunch of different materials ones. It looks like we're maybe not using all of them anymore. What are the material? Is that materials for in like the interiors of the buildings and that type of repair work?
Are you on 6515?
Yeah, 6515, 6520. I'm kind of curious as to what the materials are and what the services we're getting from vendors are.
Sure. I can touch on the materials. Jacob might be able to touch a little bit on the contract and vendors, but the materials are both the interior and the exterior of the buildings. So that would be your repair materials for it.
And then, yeah, on the building repair and maintenance contract vendors, there's several contracts for, you know, HVAC, pest control. You know, we've had some issues in the past with pest control, so we try and really make sure we're covered on the bases there. So the contract vendors, I think that's the two major ones, and that make up that budget line item for all our facilities. So we also, and I don't know if that also, Norm, there might be a small amount in there for our access control systems for the buildings, but I'm not sure on that. Norm might know that answer.
Yeah, you'd be right on that. Norm, isn't Security Solution on that?
That would be correct. They provide that fix on failure type of service out of that budget for access control and CCTV. So that is outside of their annual service agreements, as well as fire safety. For example, if we lose a sensor that goes down, which happens in the rec center in particular, it's charged to the facility's budget because it's part of that facility.
Yeah, and fire control was the other one. Thanks, Norm.
So the materials are in, I guess I'm kind of curious. So are we purchasing materials for facilities under this department and then utilizing employees from other departments to do the work? What?
Yes,
'Cause
that's what
we have a
that's what
custodian and
maintenance.
Jacob, and I don't think Jacob's doing the physical labor. At least I'm assuming as a manager, we're not paying him to do physical labor unless it's absolutely needed. So I'm just kind of curious as to how we're spending money on materials when there's no employee to do that work in this budget.
Most businesses I've been in, which includes the oil industries and manufacturing, you have a maintenance department that maintains. Various departments budget for their own repairs. In this case, we're using facilities as an umbrella to cover most everything. We buy the materials out of that budget. We supply the maintenance labor to work with those materials.
Yeah, and part of the reason that was done years ago is there was board concerns over the cost of the buildings, and so, at least as I understood it, we separated that into a department so that we could track those costs more accurately, what we were putting into the buildings. But you're right, yeah, maintenance is doing all the labor.
But we're not actually accurately tracking the costs of our buildings because facilities isn't actually the one responsible for maintaining the buildings. Maintenance is, which is not actually how most local jurisdictions that I'm aware of do things. The facilities department actually maintains the buildings. The maintenance department maintains roads, culverts, drainage,
right,
et cetera.
Yeah, and you're correct on that. At the time, this even goes back to the management company. The thought was in facilities, we would contract out all the building repairs, and for a short time, they attempted to do that, or at least in my day-to-day operations, they intended to not have maintenance staff doing a lot of the, especially not the capital repairs, but even day-to-day, there was trades brought in to do repairs, and like I said, that was years ago. So this is part of a layout that came from that time. So I hear you on.
Just
maybe that's
seems
not
seems
best
to
going
me
on.
like this department is just convoluting everything, and that this department should either actually represent what it does or evaporate. It probably actually isn't even needed. I don't think we're not such a large, like, yes, we're a large HOA, but we don't have that many facilities in the grand scheme of like what a local jurisdiction even has. And so
Right.
like, I think it could all just be covered under maintenance.
It should be, most of the
Yeah.
facilities that I've ever been with, you never had a facilities breakdown unless you were doing, if you had no maintenance department and everything was contracted out, you would have it that way. But since we do everything in-house, that could evaporate right into the maintenance budget.
Yeah, I mean, we even have a whole building that's just separated out of it.
Yeah, Joe, if I can kind of touch, prior to the maintenance management group come in, that's the way it was.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, that's something we can evaporate going forward. It's not a hard thing to evaporate.
The only other thing is, I'm wondering what on page 25, other R&M under maintenance and landscaping, 6796. Why are we seeing such a large increase there from our 2019 actuals?
What page again, AJ?
I'm trying to jump.
Last page of facilities. Sorry, my page numbers all have holes punched through them, so I can't see them very well. Last page, first line item of facilities. Maintenance and landscaping. Just kind of curious, like those numbers seem all over the place from various years. I'm wondering why there's such a large fluctuation with that covers.
I don't have an answer. I'll have to go back and look that up. Other than our other R&M is usually a catch-all.
Well, there's another other supplies as well that also seems high on the previous page, 6795. That one again is just like it's all over the place. Hard to like go when you have $35 one year to $4,000 another to $1,500 to $4,600 budgeted. There's like no rhyme or reason. It's hard for me to like look at that and be like, that makes sense. Like, I don't know what those are because it just says other.
And that's just what I said. Usually on this other is where you don't categorize it specifically. So I'd have to go back and research to see just what that is and why it's jumped all over. Jumping out to me is that 4,200. But sitting there looking at that, trying to figure that one out. 2080. Let me get back to you when I find out on that.
Okay. I don't have any other comments myself.
I mean, if you look at that other one, AJ, that 4,200 does not fit the model of anything in 2018. So I don't know what they put in that, but I mean,
We're budgeting 4,600 next year. So if 4,200 was the exception, not the rule, why are we budgeting the exception? Same with 6796. You know, that one's all over the place as well. Yeah, I just don't.
Oh, I can
You're
give
seeing
part of it.
actuals there. I mean, a lot of times we budget for it to, in these smaller categories to, and we don't have the labor to get things done. Sometimes where we try and limit costs, but you don't spend money if you don't have to. But we can do some research on the GL amounts. I'm pretty sure those have just stayed budgeted the same amount each year, and maybe we can adjust those down.
So I think one thing to look at here is I'm less concerned about, all of the various different charge codes, because sometimes we budget in one and we put it in another, and some of them are fairly similar. But if I look at the total of maintenance and landscaping, I'm on page 24. So 2019 actual was 69,500. We budgeted 92,900 for 2020. And then we're bringing it down a little for 2021. So I guess my question is, does that jump from 2019 actual to 2020 budget, and then that carries over to 2021 fairly closely? Does that make sense? Or can we look at that and see if maybe there's some savings there, since we didn't spend what we thought we would in 2019?
What page are you on, Karen?
I was on 23. And I was
Okay.
looking at the total of maintenance and landscaping, because if you look at the individual GL codes, it just kind of gets confusing.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to look at the total of that, and there's a pretty significant jump.
Oh, wow, yeah.
From 2019 actual to 2020 budget, and then it comes down a little bit for 2021. But I would suggest looking at that a little bit more closely and seeing if our 2021 budget is realistic given what 2019 actuals were.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it is. Even if you go back, even if you go back to 18 and take those, those 2 years together, those totals.
I think one of the things that may be missing here is the extra 1.5 FTEs that we have. We've not done a lot of maintenance on any of the buildings since I've been back. In fact, we more or less walked away from it and just did, I'll call it panic maintenance. I think that's what we're looking forward here to getting into. Not capital, but you're talking $1,000-$2,000 per task.
Right. So I'd say if we can explain it, if we say, no, we have specific things in mind where we're going to spend this additional money, then it's fine to keep it. But we just need to make sure that we can explain that variance from the 2019 actual to the big jump to 2020 and 2021, and make sure that we can, explain to the community what that is and why.
Sure. Right. Again, we'll take a quick look and see what we've got there.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce.
And a lot of times when you have leases, things come up year to year that are requested or need to be done for the different leases we have. And I know in the past we've budgeted for some costs in that area, and sometimes you don't have those issues arise. But like Bruce said, we'll look into it.
I got one more question. When is our leases up on the restaurant and the library?
Library is we just extended that out until 2023, I believe, and El Agave was done 2018, I believe was their lease, and that'll go out in 23 as well.
Are there any, so when did the libraries go out? Because they've been paying the same amount, and I believe the utilities in that building for forever, and I don't remember seeing a new lease come before the board.
It's right now going through legals on everybody's part.
Okay.
Hey guys, have you had a conversation about equipment yet? And again, I apologize that I was late.
No, equipment would be capital.
Okay.
Capital is the last two sections.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I think we're all done.
Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to Maddie with Marina.
Good evening. I'm Maddie, the recreation manager, and I'm doing the marina budget this year. So the marina is being managed under the recreation department now. That started kind of at the beginning of this year. I guess it used to be managed by recreation about 10 years ago, when you guys used to have another Sudden Valley operated recreation department as well. Just a really high level overview. We're budgeting $120,000 in income for 2021 and about $95,000 in expenses. For those of you who haven't been to the marina or don't know a whole lot about it, the marina captures, for this budget specifically, a more accurate cost of the operation and maintenance of the facility. So it captures the lease cost that we have, the floating wet slip structures, the piers that support those, and accessories. We have 88 wet slips. We have 2 launches into the lake with traffic arms. We have 165 dry slips and a really large parking area. That includes the spit area as well. We have an office and storage building down there. And during the boating season, it's open 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's open to the public. We do charge them to use our facility to launch. The biggest difference you'll see in our payroll is in salaries. So previously, the department has not been under any direct supervision of a Sudden Valley manager. And so we didn't have any Sudden Valley staff specifically dedicated to seeing the operation, the day-to-day operation of that department. So that's why you're seeing that now, even though that was being covered part-time by member services in the past, Ms. Andrea Herrig, who transitioned this year to being the marina assistant manager. So that's really what the large cost is this year, the main difference. There's some small increases in specific GLs, but I'm happy to go over what we do down at the marina, more about operations, if you guys are interested in that.
So when Maddie was doing this under the admin cost, she was only spending half time, but now she's spending a full FTE on this.
Lisa, do you know about how much time that Andrea would spend on the marina when she was working under administration?
During the high season, it was almost her entire job except for answering the phone and taking payments. So from March until August, she spent a tremendous amount of her time on marina renewals and kayak and canoe and working with maintenance on member complaints regarding the marina. But it was seasonal at the time, which means a whole lot of projects that needed to get done for the marina couldn't get done because she had a lot of other responsibilities in the front office.
Yeah, and this position does cover if it just facilitates all of our reservations as well. So reservations for our picnic shelters, buildings, private rentals, that kind of thing. Then it does help support events. So it's not just marina operations, although that is the majority of the job.
Then shouldn't you, if you're gonna put some of her time toward reservations and stuff, shouldn't that time be booked since rec gets the revenue for that? Shouldn't that time be booked to that rather than to the marina? This whole salary thing drops the marina's basic net. It's like you've killed the cash cow here. The 95,000 that's for this year and the 99,000 they earned in 2019 is now down to $24,700,
Yeah, some of her time, yeah, Linda, just like you said, some of her time is actually applied to recreation. So being incorporated as part of that special assessment, since she is doing the reservations for the community center.
Okay,
so she's working a full FTE under this and additional FTE status under our rec special assessment?
No, just part of her time is being allocated. So part of her salary is being allocated towards the recreation special assessment.
So then why do we have a full 1 FTE in this department?
Yeah, so 10% of my time is also being applied to the marina as well. Since I'm being paid out of that special assessment, and those funds are, it's really strict about what you can do with those funds, and it doesn't have anything to do with the marina. So since part of my time is being spent now managing the marina, that needed to be captured as well.
So to clarify this 1 FTE is most of Andrea's time and some of your time. And then the remainder of both of your time goes to recreation.
That's right.
I guess I have a question for Joel. I don't know so much if it's Maddie. Is in salaries, we spent nothing in 2020 in this thing, and now we're spending 40. Wouldn't that be 100% change rather than a 0% change as far as the budget goes?
Yeah, that's not
Well,
right.
Actually, it is right because the computation can't divide by 0. So it just ignores it in a sense, meaning this is a system report.
I got you, but I'm saying normally it would be 100%
Oh, sure,
increase
yeah.
because it wasn't there
Absolutely.
before.
Yeah.
That's all.
Or an infinite increase, I guess you'd say.
Okay, that sounds good. No.
So we're billing 0.1 FTE of Maddie's time to this and 0.9 FTE of Andrea's time to this. I'm looking at, so we have someone who's the manager of the recreation department devoting some time to this, and someone who's considered the assistant manager, and looking at the salary line item for that, and then that just does not seem to me that that is equivalent to what that would be. And I guess I'm confused as well as to why processing paperwork is not just an admin function of ours.
So I know you mean processing paperwork for the marina? Like
Yeah,
what?
like what are her actual job duties down there that takes 90% of an entire year's worth of hours?
Yeah, so what she does is she's now down there in person to help our members, which wasn't available before because she was tied to the front desk. It's a really large, kind of complicated facility. Like I said, we have 165 dry slips and they're not so easy to find. So it's really nice that she's down there to be able to actually assist members when somebody else is parked in their spot who's not supposed to be there, or to find where they're actually supposed to be. She's also catching a lot of people who aren't using the facility correctly, people who are trying to launch without permission, like with the right, they don't have renewals through us or permits, that kind of thing. I did ask her to track kind of our customer interactions, how much interaction she is getting. So she's averaging right now about 83 calls a week and 48 people visit her in person. But she's been able to respond to a lot of emergencies on the spot. We've had some significant issues. Like our traffic arm failed recently and came down on a vehicle, and she was able to immediately go out there and help with that. We've had a lot of vandalism on our wet slip dock. She's been able to address right away, like someone broke the stand that has our fire suppression equipment. So the fire extinguishers were like hidden all over the wet slips, and the glass was on the dock, and she's been able to, she does inspections, so she's able to actually like catch that stuff right away when it's happening. And we get a lot of traffic down there. So for her to be able to be there and assist our members has really helped. And she's actually facilitating, looking at the issues that we've been hearing about for years, the quality of the parking lot that we've helped improve, and Bruce has helped us improve that, the quality of our dry slips. Our wet slip docks took a huge amount of damage this winter that she's been able to facilitate getting repaired. So a lot of it has to do with just maintaining the day-to-day operations down there, but she's helping address some of these larger issues too that relate to capital. So that's kind of what's going on.
Maddie,
chime
question for
in.
you. You were saying there was some damage on the docks down there. Don't they have the locking gates on there yet?
They
Out
do.
on the wet slips?
Yeah, so if you've been down there, you might notice that there is a large strip of land that's right next to the marina.
Yeah.
So it's really easy for someone to jump off of that and swim to the dock. So we suspect that's primarily how people are doing it.
Need to get the cameras over there. I was gonna say, because that used to be such an issue, and then when we put the gates in, that really improved things. I have one question for you on page 35. It's other professional services have taken a big jump, and I just wondered what that is.
Yeah, so
Is
that
it-
is for repairing our wet slip structure. So like I said, they took a lot of damage and they will continue to take damage because it's in an active marina. We get that wave action during those winter storms.
Yep.
In this past winter, on both the east and the wet slip docks, right at the very end of the pier where they take the most damage, the actual part that you walk on separated from the outside border, and they were moving like this. And that's a huge issue, and we want to
Keep the geese off.
keep the geese off, but really it's meant for professional maintenance of our structures. And it's, in order to maintain people renting our slips, we felt it was important to put some money into maintenance.
That's fine. Just wondered what it was because it just said other professional. And I didn't know if that had to do with some of all the different like control arms on the launch thing, on the gates.
It involves that too. Exactly. Like Gateway Controls helps us with our launch arms. Lakeside Marine is the contractor who's helping us with the repairs and the launch dock capital replacement. So
Gotcha. Okay.
Exactly right.
Got it.
Kind of curious as to why. So last year there was a proposal for additional maintenance FTE. And I guess I'm kind of confused as to why we have to have a proposed maintenance FTE, but we can just create this brand new position at the marina that didn't exist in last year's budget during this, like that position wasn't approved in the budget. So why are some departments having to request additional FTEs while we can just move Andrea from admin to the marina and then backfill her position and not lose that FTE? How, I guess I don't understand how she was able to do all of that stuff. And now it's like we have a whole nother person doing both those things that she was previously doing herself.
I can speak as a marina user, it wasn't getting done. And that is
People
why
weren't
a lot
paying
of
their fees and what wasn't getting done?
the oversight of it to identify issues and be able to address them. So I would
We
say,
just spent like almost $2 million on the marina. What do you mean? How has there not been oversight on the marina?
I don't think we spent $2 million on the marina.
Well, we spent over $1 million.
I think
But
it
I
was
can
about-
speak, Karen, I can speak to during the marina, when it was really busy, I would get a lot of calls from Andrea, and I'm on the golf course right next door, and I would run over and direct people to where the dry slips were. And, if people hadn't paid, impound boats over. So I'll be honest, I mean, it was Bruce and I that had to literally day to day and go down and quit what we were doing and assist in some of these things. So, and I'm not having to do that this year because Andrea is handling them all in person down there. So, whether or not that's what you want, I will say that was I spent a lot of time down there during May and June trying to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Same with Bruce.
The input a little bit on that money that was spent, the large amount in capital, that was what was saving the harbor, if you will. That was armoring the shoreline.
I know what it is.
that maintenance down there has not been going for several years, as you know. Maddie was pointing out the docks are falling apart. With Andrea down there, she can observe this stuff, she can report it. What maintenance can do, we will, but some of that has to be done by professionals. I wouldn't want one of my guys drilling into the dock and sinking it.
That's fair.
And also the customer service aspect of it wasn't happening. So if you paid your fee and you went to go launch your boat that day and your card wasn't working, you were out of luck. You could maybe call security, and sometimes they were able to come and do it, and other times there weren't. And there would be cars parked in places where would prevent people from getting their boats out of their dry slips. Just a whole bunch of things that would prevent the marina users who were paying their fees. And it's too bad that Rob had to jump off, because I would say the customer satisfaction level down there was decreasing, because there were these kind of ongoing issues that we just didn't have a person there to address. And I would say what I'm hearing now, and again, it's too bad Rob's not on here, but it's significantly increasing because these issues are being taken care of like that. Andrea's there on the busiest days of the week. There's always still things that we can improve on, but it's definitely, there was about a 10% increase in fees this year. And there was a lot of concern about that people felt like they weren't getting what they were paying for. And I think having this person there has helped that a lot, because we're seeing a lot of these things improve, not just from the maintenance perspective, but just the operations, from the being able to address issues right away. And so the people that are paying their fees to be able to use the space are able to actually use them when they go down there to use them.
I have a question then. So security could let them in sometimes, but not always. And if they had an issue using the facilities, do you mean the launching from the dock? And the wet slips and such. I'm not negating the fact that she adds value. I've been down there. Andrea had said to me that they increased the kayak and paddleboard racks by 10%, that they're looking at the dry storage and the wet slips. They're looking at increasing those. I think that AJ's making a great point in that, and this doesn't negate any value that Andrea brings, but how is it that we have to vote on one FTE, but we just create a position? That is a valid point. It needs to be answered. I wondered that as well. So I kind of want an answer to that. And I think AJ does too, because he asked it. And then why do we have these overlapping services? Like, I understand that security, it's in our bylaws to have, it's in our laws, it's in our rules, but nothing says that can change. Because if security can't actually do anything that they were doing, why are we having them? If we want Andrea to add this value added service with customer service, then why are we overlapping with these things? We really need to be frugal and look at how are we going to provide these services to our community without treating them like an ATM. So that's hugely important. So why is it that we just created that position, but we had to vote on the other one? Can someone answer AJ's question without implying that we are saying that Andrea doesn't add value to the marina?
I'll answer that. We were juggling around positions right across the board. We're trying to provide better service, and this is a position that it's not really newly created. It's just moving a person from one aspect to another aspect, and then it's just
it's newly created. It's a full FTE, and
it's not newly created.
Administration FTEs haven't changed.
It's not newly created. It's moving someone out of an area that could not devote the full attention that was needed for there.
So where did she move from?
We moved from admin down to the marina. We
Okay,
juggled
but-
positions-
So
we
why didn't
juggled
admin
positions.
decrease an FTE?
We still have all the work that needs to be done. She could not handle.
So you added an
all of-
FTE then?
It's
Yeah,
not-
you
Say what,
shuffled.
let's just say what it is here. Let's not try and dance
Well,
around it.
Let's go that way, AJ. It's not creating, we have services we have to provide to these residents, one way or another. And that's the bottom line. We have services that are required to be taken care of for these people.
That
And
doesn't answer the question,
the 10% increase, yes, we increased both wet slips, dry slips, combos this year, 10% in revenue in 2020. There is no increase for 2021, but there will be increases in 2022 and 2023.
So that's not what I asked. So basically,
fine.
admin did not decrease FTE. It stayed the same. And we created and we moved a position to the marina. So that is a contradiction. We created a position somewhere. I understand that we have enough work, but I asked a question and I didn't get a straight answer.
Can I contribute a little bit, Joe? Do you mind?
Please, Lisa, please.
Okay, I'm probably not going to answer your questions on why it was done, but I can at least give you some idea of what the philosophy was behind it. We had a strategic meeting with management where we identified some major issues that we had. And one of them that there was no pure oversight of the marina, which is a revenue source. And there's a ton of potential to create more revenue there, more services. And how on earth we do that? Because we needed Andrea for sure in the front office. She was the one that knew everything about everything. She was the first person. She'd been here for a long time, but the majority of her focus has been on marina. So she seemed to be the logical person to jump in with Maddie and explore the option for this year and see if maybe this is a good choice. And so devoting her time to the complete, not renovation, that's the wrong word, analysis of the marina operations and what it can do for the association, what it can't do, where the pitfalls are, try to get a more cohesive and streamlined operation there. And we left it with, this may not work out. And, Maddie, they crunched the numbers and made sure that there was actually enough, revenue to justify this test drive. And please don't reuse the word test drive. It's just, if obviously anything that it is decided that doesn't work, we readjust. But as far as the administrative offices, yes, we have the same FTEs, but we were able to replace Andrea with an entry-level person doing a whole lot less with a lot less responsibilities. And thus our admin budget goes far down compared to what it was, even though we have the same amount of human beings in there. And then, that is how, I hope, Joe, am I making sense? Okay. So that is kind of how the decision was made. It wasn't creating a new position. It was kind of creating a new opportunity to see if this service and revenue source could be improved upon.
So
Your salaries did not go down in admin, they went up.
They did actually go down.
I have two questions. The first one is, before Andrea physically moved down to the marina, how much of her time did she spend on marina issues? And second, at the end of the boating season, will she be brought back into admin?
As far as her time devoted to the marina here, it was at least 80%. At least I could have a better idea on that, but I would say it was at least 75, 80% of her time up here.
During the high season, yes.
Okay, so you guys.
And facility
Will she be brought back into admin at the end of the boating season?
Maddie?
No, she will be at the recreation department because she also does all of our facility rentals and she helps with events. So she's at the recreation department.
So between the two departments, we have an extra body.
Wait, so
That
you're telling me that Andrea's got time billed under the rec department, the marina department, and the admin department? Like, how are we supposed to track this stuff as the board? That is just crazy. Like, how are we supposed to even wrap our heads around understanding that?
When she was an admin, it was just an admin. This change to Marina just happened this last year. So that's
Okay, but
always
I
just.
mean, I asked for an employee org chart like weeks ago.
And AJ, that the work chart that we provided you is the work chart that we use here, and that is the work chart that I provided to you.
The
So
org
you
chart doesn't
memorize-
give me the information I wanted.
That's
Yeah,
the work
you-
chart that we use, AJ.
I asked you for,
And I gave you the work
So you
chart.
can't-
whatever, you just continue to break the.
You can't make one where you fill in the names and what their duties are instead of just a general one that can be downloaded?
The names
That
of-
org chart that you supplied doesn't even give us an employee count.
And you guys, I mean, when I don't, I mean, I don't claim to be a CPA, but I don't think that anybody doing an audit would want to chase over 3 different departments for somebody's salary. And I asked a question. So between the 2 departments, we have an extra body, correct?
Admin is the same.
Right. But between the 2 departments, we have an extra body.
Admin is the same.
Admin is the same, the Marina.
It's
We
not.
created a position, basically. We can't even get, I mean, it's like, we can't even get through any of this if we can't address that. And so I asked the question and then I get 30,000 justifications for Andrea. Did I not say that I was not negating the fact that she adds value? I'm talking about process and procedure that is in place for a reason. So why do we vote on an FTE for one department and then we create one for another? I would like to see process and procedure followed through all departments.
As far as one person working for separate departments, I have worked in several organizations where you filled out depending on what project you're working on, and one person can be working on 3 or 4 different projects, and the time that you spend on each one is charged to that project. And I'm seeing Andrea's time that being done here, where she makes
How
part
do
of her
you
time.
see Andrea's time? I don't see her time.
Yeah, please
Well,
show
they were
me
just,
where
they were
Andrea's
just
time is.
explaining to me that a certain percentage is charged to admin and a certain percentage is charged to rec. And that to me is 2 different projects.
Right, I
And
understand
Show
that,
me
but
the
you said you're
documentation that
seeing her
actually
time.
tells us that.
Time cards.
Somebody just
documentation,
said it
something.
tonight.
Someone just said it, so we just
Yeah,
say
Joe.
it, so it's true. Like,
Okay.
like we have to present this stuff to
Joe-
the community. We have to
Joe and
justify these
Lisa.
things.
Joe and Lisa explained how Andrea's time is.
Okay, well, no one.
Okay,
do
then
you
I
not
want
have
to
an
see
extra
exactly
body?
each
You wanna see
individual
it in-
person, employees, and how their salaries get billed to each department. Because it's very confusing to me at this point. I got Jacob who works half-time in turf care, half-time in facilities. We got Andrea who's working in 3 different departments. We got like what? How are we supposed to keep track of all this?
With
like-
no organizational
Like
chart
Joe, you're
either.
chuckling and
I-
smiling,
yeah, I
but
do.
like, do you think I'm wrong here? Like, do you think this is easy to just comprehend?
It's been explained that
It's
he
been
works,
explained, AJ.
his
And-
time is, half his time is charged one place and half of his time is charged somewhere else. And I don't
Nothing is
understand what's
showing us
confusing
that
about that.
to be able to justify it. Like, that's what an org chart would do.
No, a
An
work
org
chart
chart would
does not
break
do
down
that.
where Andrea
A
actually
work chart,
works.
AJ, work chart shows what departments are and who's under them. That's it. Does not show what times. And if there's a project that
It shows their FTE status, which would be divvied out into the different departments.
you have the FTE counts.
I don't want the FTE counts. I want each employee's FTE status. I want their job descriptions. I want their salary range.
That's
I
a
want the
management
exact
decision,
same
AJ.
thing that is expected out of anyone who works for local government.
This isn't local government, AJ.
I don't care. That's what I want. I want that information so I can make
Why?
an informed decision. And
No,
you're
it's a
telling me I
management
can't
structure.
have it? Like, that
AJ,
seems,
it's management. My job is to manage the staff and the people here.
and our job is to oversee the budget, Joe. And how
And I
are we
have
supposed to
overseen
oversee the
Can
budget
I-
if we don't even know what our staffing is?
Our
And it's all
staffing
so
is
convoluted and crazy.
And the
Can I-
reason you have people going in different departments is because of through the years of staff getting cut, we had to cross-train people and move them from different departments to different departments to make it work.
That's fine. Show it.
Can I just step in here? And what we are talking about and what we vote on is actually the budget. It's not the FTE counts, and FTE counts can
Drive the
kind
budget.
of, huh?
FTE
Drive
counts
the
drive your
budget.
salary line item. Every FTE should have a salary range like that states what this position, what their job duties are, what their range should be, and what they're responsible for.
Okay, AJ, I wasn't done.
That's fine.
So the FTE can vary greatly. Just like Lisa said, we had Andrea in a certain position and then we switched that out and got someone different that was a much lower rate. What we, the
So
board,
wait a
and
minute, back to that. We
are
switched that
actually
out and added
still
another
talking,
person.
Steffi, I'm still talking. What
Right,
we,
I'm
the
just-
board and the community actually vote on is the budget. Then management makes the decisions about who and what and how much to pay those people. I understand the relationship that FTE and pay rates have on
I'm
the
not
budget.
even asking for what people
But that's
get
not
paid.
exactly what we, the board or the community, vote on. We vote on the total budget. And the reason I wanted to bring this up in the first place is because Steffi said, why did we have to vote on one FTE? And we actually didn't. What we voted on was that budget that included that FTE.
So you,
And that's all I
you
wanted
believe
to
we only
clarify.
vote on one number? We're
No,
only
I
voting
believe we
on one
vote
number, a
on-
bottom line number, basically?
I'm
That's
not
what you
saying that.
believe?
I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that the management of that budget is under the direction of staff.
Yeah, and you don't think the county council requires staff to show them and justify all of their positions? Like, yeah, they definitely do. Like, that is how it should work. Like, I don't care if we're not a local jurisdiction, Joe. We're a homeowners association that's basically a city. We should act like it. Transparency is a big issue here. And when I see all this muddled stuff with salaries going this way and that department and this department, like, how are we supposed to make an informed decision on how many employees we think is actually reasonable for those departments in the budget to agree and say, yes, I agree with this budget that you presented with us, Joe. This salary line item matches with these job descriptions and these positions.
AJ, conversely, if you didn't allocate the portion of their time that they spend on various departments, you would have a skewed version of how much that actually costs. And that is what we had with the marina for years, because none of Andrea's time, I even asked this a couple years ago. I said, how come we don't have any salary for the marina? I know we have a person that spends time on the marina. This is just one of those situations where we have people that, in order to be more efficient, we have people that work in multiple departments. That's just a fact of how this company operates. I understand that it can be confusing, but we also, the managers right now are explaining whose time is kind of split against departments and in what situation that would happen. And the reason that that is done is to more accurately reflect our actual costs of managing those specific things and those specific areas of our community. If we didn't put someone to the marina, we would continue to think that it's actually more profitable than it is, but it has never been $100,000 profitable because we would have always had somebody's time going towards that. And so
Okay, but if you approve for an admin budget and then you move that person over to the marina, that's also not okay. Also, the community expects us to understand what we're voting on in the budget. So if we're asking for that information, if we're asking for an organizational chart, if we're asking why everything is convoluted, then I expect an explanation without animosity. I cannot believe how much animosity I'm seeing over an organizational chart. Also, there is more than one way to expense these things. They don't have to be 10% here. It doesn't have to be a spider web so that it's confusing and convoluted. It can be cleaned up.
I have a question. If I'm looking at the FTE chart and I see that the marina got the 1.1 added for 2021, you made the change with Andrea early on in 2020 and moved her, but it shows 0 here on the FTE chart, and it would maybe help to show that indeed her hours are in 2020 are coming out of the marina, not that there's just a line there like there was nobody there. Another thing I'm going to say, I used to work for Sudden Valley. I used to do accounts payable. And guess what else I got to do, because the person that did the rec department no longer wanted to handle the marina. And I didn't work full time. And I used to go down and walk the marina and put tags on people's boats, find out who wasn't down there. So yeah, we've humbled along with that in the past. But my time, during the marina time, March was a busy month for me. A lot of times, but when everybody got their stuff on their boats, you'd go down and check, have a nice walk in the afternoon, because some days I only worked half days. But that's what you did with your time. And it's how the valley has got by, and how we haven't always, you don't even want to know how much I made an hour. And then when my daughter went to school, it was time to go to Bellingham and work for a company so that I could afford to send my daughter to college. But it's how it's been done. A lot of times the rec manager in past years handled the marina all by herself and himself at one time. We had a guy that was really, really good with the marina. So if that's what we want to talk about, we can. But I'm saying it gets passed around. And sometimes, for me, it was like, we need somebody to do the marina. And it's like, that's it. Gil does the billing for a lot of it. I think he's probably still does. Joel probably answer that, but it's like, that's what it is. There are, I would say with all the kayak storage, that's probably extra time. That's something I never had to deal with, but I always had all the wet slips and I always had all the dry slips.
I want to weigh in. One of the benefits we're having of having someone down there is partly safety. In the past, there was no one down there to monitor people crawling on other people's boats, kids swimming up, climbing up on swim steps, climbing on boats. Our assistant manager has been down there promoting safety. When I got involved, there were boats everywhere because there was no one down there able to manage it fully in during season. Boats were supposed to be in slip 7, were over in 40 because someone liked it better, and that's where they wanted to go. And some of the mess, I see you laughing, Linda, but it's the truth.
No, I know it's the truth.
If we want to manage this piece of the business, which does produce $127,000 in income, it's a big piece of the business.
Not anymore.
What do you mean not anymore? Excuse me, sir?
Next year, Rob, net after expenses, we're only going to clear $27,400.
Okay, well, I missed that.
So if Andrea has to go down there and police, if Andrea has to go down there and police, and Rob, you missed it. I'm not trying to negate Andrea's value. What I'm saying is that we're overlapping services. Why do we have, if she's down there and she's, clearing people out of, improper usage of slips. I know she cleared up a whole kayak rack incident. Why do we have security then? So she's basically policing the marina and security isn't. And that's nothing against security either. They're very pleasant gentlemen. I'm just looking at our communities.
Good point, Steffi. I hear you. And it is a good point. Yeah.
So all I've heard, I asked a question while you were gone, and I don't want you to answer it because I've heard 10,000 different answers and I'm over it. Is how what we did was we moved Andrea over there and then added a person with a lesser salary to admin. So that position was created, and I asked questions about that. And then I got 10,000 reasons why she should be there. Now, I didn't say she shouldn't be there. I'm looking at expenses. So how are we, so that's not, I don't want to go on another 15 minutes about, Andrea's value. I understand the customer service aspect. But
thank you, Stephanie, for, and yes, I have been at a previous meeting that I had to attend, but
right.
and I missed that point, but there are safety issues down there, and I'll get up to speed on what.
No, that's fine. I just think that then, I mean, if she's going to police the marina and that's going to be 100% her baby, then, I mean, this is stuff that security used to do. So we have two people, and we have quite a bit of overlap going on. So for our residents, we should be looking at that as well.
So actually security didn't. I mean, sometimes they did. I'm not saying that security wasn't doing their job, but Andrea is policing stuff real time as it's happening or as it's being seen. I mean, I guess some of the stuff is being discovered like the day after people were, on the docks in the evening or whatever. But what I was speaking to before is, there might be someone parked in the wrong spot and they'll go tell her right then and she's able to sort it out immediately, whereas security would have had to been called and come down there. Security was never a full-time presence down there.
They should be.
Andrea,
they should be. They should be around in the value that they should not be sitting.
Right, but there might be other places. They might be other places in the valley, is what I'm saying. And at the time when an incident occurs. And so
an incident that is like a parking space, it doesn't need to be real time, but I mean, that's great.
Well, it does if someone is, so if you go to take your boat back to your dry slip and someone is parked in your dry slip, that is something that needs to be handled immediately. And even if Andrea can't move it, she can say, that's okay, you can park right here because I know this is a spot that's not going to cause more problems. And what we were seeing in the past was that it would just be a chain reaction. Someone would be parked in your trailer spot, so you'd go park in someone else's and that person would come back later and it would just cause kind of a chain reaction. So it's not necessarily violations of that. It definitely is marina operations. And then again, with the card access things and things that she's handling in real time, that wasn't necessarily a courtesy, security issue, but sometimes as a courtesy, they would help with the marina gate arm or whatever to get people able to go or out into the, onto the wet slips if their card wasn't working. And sometimes we found that those people didn't actually have valid cards. They had old expired ones, or they didn't have the right permits to be able to use it. So
I understand all of that. It's so you guys, you go on and on about the same thing. It's like, we're going to be here till 11. I'm saying that we're doing double duty and you can negate that all you want. I'll let you have the last word.
No, Andrea is doing things that should not be under security. She's handling things.
I disagree. Security could report to admin.
Well, I'd like to add something to your discussion there, Director Jones, about security. You have 40 miles of road, one officer on shift, 8 hours a day, plus all your amenities, plus responding to calls. The security is currently capped with that one officer per shift.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking me to pull that officer off shift, park them in a vehicle down in the marina and play traffic cop.
No, I did not ask you to park them down there.
That's what you said. No, that's what you're implying.
That's not what I said, Norm. You need to watch your tone. And
I do.
Not
how about you set the example?
Don't put words in my mouth.
So
Norm,
this is what
I did not say that. I said they need to be
may I finish,
presence.
or are you going to continue?
I'm going to continue to correct.
Then we're done here because I don't have anything to add to a circle discussion.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, I wasn't laughing because I thought it was funny. It's just knowing the history of the marina like I do. There's some of it that's just, if you don't laugh, it'll make you cry. But it's true, and it's helped to have the harbor masters down there for the couple of years. What have you guys done that for 2 years now?
No, actually, we're going into our third year. Yes.
Okay. But I'm saying it's helped. And it's just, is it imperfect? Oh yeah, it's imperfect, you know? And I think that, you know, I wasn't laughing because you were saying anything bad, and I wasn't laughing because it was fun. It was just remembering some of the things you run across when you end up managing it, and you go down there and you do start looking around at stuff and who's where they belong and who's not where they belong, and who has a sticker on their boat, who doesn't have a sticker on their boat. And it's interesting. I can remember when we used to get maintenance to make a roundup of people who had boats in there that didn't pay. And you used to have a roundup, and Bruce will remember this. You used to run a big cord through them, and then nobody could get their boats out. You'd contact them and say, hey, your boat's sitting all rounded up. It was a roundup, and maintenance did it.
Well, Linda,
You know,
thank you for,
boats and put them in a place where you keep track of it.
Linda, thank you for sharing that with me. I appreciate that. I'm sorry if I overreacted. I logged back into the meeting and there's people shouting at each other, which to me, I think we really ought to take a look at a group of board of directors and think about how are we behaving. You know, I mean, we're shouting at each other. And I'm probably part of the problem. We have got to start to really think about how we interact and how we talk to each other and how we behave. It's okay if we disagree, totally, but I'm not gonna sit here while I feel like people are shouting at me, or when I say something, they get up and walk away. And it's just my perception. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel.
Hey guys, sorry to chime in here. It seems like really emotional, but what causes people to park their boat in the wrong slip? Like why does that happen?
So Joshua, one of the main reasons is when we get into these periods where we have a lot of rain, the dry slips don't drain very well. And trailers with smaller tires, the puddles come up to almost the top of the wheels for days, and that will rot the rubber. Okay. So somebody will say, you know what, I just want to move my trailer over somewhere else. Some boats go into dry storage in the winter. So boats just start moving around in the wet slips. Maybe somebody hasn't put their boat in the water for a few weeks and someone says, you know what, I like this spot better. It's easier to get in and out. We have a prevailing north wind in the summer that's pretty strong, and people have issues docking. So those are some of the main reasons, Josh, why. And I know you and I have wanted to get down and kind of walk that area together, and I'd love to be able to do that with you at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more. I mean, you know, of course, I'm like, my head's always in the design area, so I'm wondering if there's like a way to do some kind of, I mean, this is off topic and I apologize, everyone's like, shut up, but you know, if there's a way that we can do some kind of wayfinding signage or something that kind of directs people a little bit more with the rules and, you know, what the options are down there and who to call and what to do and whatnot. Just, you know, throwing that out there.
Yeah, and some of it I think is some folks just don't understand the impact of the action. So somebody might park their car briefly to unload some picnic gear right in front of the launch ramp, not knowing that they're impeding. You can't get your trailer and tow vehicle on the ramp or off of it the way that they're towed. So somebody typically from the administration needs to kind of help with that and say, hey, you need to move your car, you know, because they won't listen to Bob and I. Some will, but a lot of people just kind of like, why are you bothering me? You're just a volunteer. I don't need to listen to you. And that was what we struggled with for a couple of years, Josh, and having someone down there directing traffic really is helpful. Dogs running around. I can't tell you how many dogs I've almost backed over because the dog is running behind my trailer when I'm trying to back down the ramp. I would feel horrible if I killed somebody's dog. I mean, you know how I feel.
We definitely do not want that happening.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know how I feel about pets. I mean, you know, anyway,
yeah, it's all right.
I'm kind of going
describe
it. I'm just going on with this a bit, and everybody who knows me knows that this is a passion of mine. So.
Thanks, Rob.
Well, yeah, thank you, Rob. No, I was trying to get some answers to questions. And unfortunately, there seems to be a culture here where if we have questions or answers, then all of a sudden it is a personal attack on that specific department, when I'm actually looking at cost effectiveness and what can we do? Because I have community members talking to me about, you know, why are we paying for this? Why are we doing this? These are the questions I'm asking. I'm not here to be popular at all, as evidenced.
And I think what you're asking, I think what you're saying is, how can we be more productive? How can
Well,
we increase
yeah, and
productivity?
I'm asking specific questions. And so then when you are saying, hey, why isn't security down there doing that? Hey, why is Andrea doing this? Hey, why are we have, you know, overlap here? They're all questions that need to be asked. And so there is a culture here where then it's deflected to a personal attack on that department, where this is business. This is principles over personalities. And so there are questions that are going to be asked. And one, I'm a loud person because my voice is very high pitched. So I am loud. And when people interrupt, I just get louder. And also, some of the frustration is that 3 of us directors that were elected and have been treated very poorly from the beginning. So you're honing in on some of that and you haven't been privy to that. So I apologize for that. But when we can't get basic information, we tend to be a little bit curt. So I apologize for that. But no one was attacking the marina. No one is specifically attacking security. We are dissecting the budget.
Nothing wrong with asking questions and dissecting the budget. That's fine. I think all I'm saying is when I came back into the meeting, there was raised voices and kind of set me off a bit. So if I was part of that, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Rob. I just wanted to reassure you of, you know, what you walked in on. So I just wanted to make sure. So
Thank you,
thanks.
Seppi. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Peace, love, and harmony, guys. We're all healthy. Let's just move this along.
I do think at some point we may want to just have a discussion on board culture. I do agree with Rob's initial comment and how we treat each other. I'd love to pick that up, not at this conversation, but so to kick it back over to the conversation. My question is relating to the the marina, of course. I think I've mentioned this before, asked this before. Do we have any plans to dredge the marina? I think we're a few years behind, and is that slated with the Army Corps? What are we doing to work that in to our into our budget and our plan?
Right now, there is no plan to dredge the marina.
That's a shame because you could use the dirt and put it in the low spots where all those boats are underwater. That's kind of how they added soil down there at one time when they dredged it before.
I don't think they're going to let you do that, Linda.
No, I don't think.
Come on.
This isn't Sun Valley circa 1970 anymore.
Hey, AJ, I'll have to agree. I don't think the county would let me even begin to dump that there. And I think part of the problem with why the water is collecting there is it needs to be shot with elevations and most likely just pushed off and regraded. I think that's the biggest issue down there is that over the years, they just kept putting stuff in, and it kind of got off a grade. I think that's the biggest issue because there are catch basins there. And I think we just need to regrade and push it to get that water to go to that point.
And because there's another Lake Whatcom down there after a heavy rain, let me tell you.
Yes, there is. Yeah. I think a lot of that is just grade work. I don't think it's, I don't think there's a lot of work down there to be done. It's just getting some good elevations across that entire footprint and pushing it to the right spots. But yeah, the county would never, ever, ever let me dump those fines there in a million years.
It's just funny because there's pictures of when they had to dredge it one time and then moving it over and then putting it in there. So we had a little bit of elevation.
Yeah.
Then I still have the videos when they did that.
Good job.
Have we inspected the culverts and the catch basins down there for if they're plugged, flowing properly?
Yes,
So those are all clear?
basically clear, yes.
Yeah, so AJ, it's an elevation issue. It's not the drainage issue. We just have to get, I need a good set of, a good level and a good set of sticks and push that off and regrade that. And then,
Yeah, and move, and in the meantime, move all the boats out of there.
well, yeah, it's gonna have to get, boats have to get out, but that's something, and that's a summer issue because I can't do it out of dirt windows. So I mean, there's some issues that are in that, but having been down there and standing looking at it, AJ, across it, it's more of an elevation issue than anything else.
And Joe, I'm jumping in again here. Again, been around since 2008. I do remember my first GM bringing in 19 trucks and transfer loads of crushed gravel, trying to raise that area that now floods.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We are done with day one. Andrew, over to you now to.
We just need to, well, first, I just want to say thanks to all the managers for taking the time to come here and present your budgets. Good work, everyone. And thanks for sticking in there with us close to 9 o'clock at night. I know you all have other things you could be doing right now. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the board. If there's nothing else for the good of the order, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.